Alright guys, good afternoon. Welcome to another video. Today my intention is to show you, so this is going to be a video of two parts. The intention of this video is to show you why your printer head is drawing lines, but you can't understand it unless we do this first part. So in this first part I'm going to show you the structure of a printer head, so that way you can really understand why your printer head draws lines and what you might be able to do suppose it draws lines. So in this first part we're going to really examine the XP600 printer head, what it's like, how it works and all of that. Then afterwards we will then go to the part 2 of why your printer head draws lines. So stay tuned and we will be right back. Alright, welcome back to the video. For starts, before we start at all, please hit the subscribe button, press the like button. When you do that, when you press subscribe, when you press like, it makes the video available to you if we post another video, and it makes the video available to your friends in your circle, anybody who might need this information. So let's get to it. Alright, so this is the XP600 printer head, and XP600 printer head has 6 nozzles. When we say nozzles, this is pretty much what we're saying. Can you see these holes? Right? Can you see these holes? These tiny little pipes are like what you call a suction hose. What they do is that they take in fluid into these vents through those tubes on your machine. From those tubes now, you supply ink through this vent, and then the ink eventually comes out through this space here. Now, one of the reasons why your printer head draws lines is first and foremost because of the nature of the printer head itself. It's going to be very difficult for me to show you from here, but if you look at the surface of this printer head, you will eventually see 6 different nozzles. For instance, this is 1 nozzle, 2 nozzle, there's a 3rd one here, there's a 4th one here, there's a 5th one here, there's a 6th one here. Now each of these nozzles has about close to 60 different lines, or even much more, on one single line like this. So it's like saying, suppose you have 60 to 100 lines here, it means you have 600 tiny little pores on top of this surface. So all of this is what controls the tiny details of your print. Say for instance you're trying to print on a very tiny surface, or maybe what you are printing is a very small letter. The reason you can get away with that and still be able to print it is because of these tiny little vents on top of your printer head. I'm going to lose this now and I'll attempt to show you what this really looks like under the hood. Right, so before this video I already unscrewed this for you so that I can just easily take it out like that. Now this here is just like a metal covering that covers the surface of this printer head. It really pretty much does nothing for it other than to serve as a covering and not to expose this surface, right? So once you set it back in here, nothing special. Then next to that you have this plastic here, right, which is your print head, right? So your printer head is comprised of 2 compartments, the electronic component and the mechanical suction component. I don't know if you can see that. So this is the mechanical suction component that releases ink through these holes, right? So the ink goes in from here, all of these 6 holes, and then it makes its way out through these spaces here, right? And then this rubber here is just the same way you need a rubber in any device, just to ensure that air is prevented so that your printer head can do its work as easily as possible, right? So I think that's pretty much it. Great. If you look at these 6 nozzles, you can see that the space between here and here is not exactly the space between here and here. So basically what happens between here is tiny dots that collect ink from here and then makes a passageway into these 6 vents right here. So pretty much this is your funnel, nothing special, right? But this here is really the printer head. And if your printer head blocks, if your printer head is drawing lines, it's mostly going to be this here. Now, this printer heads, XP600 printer heads, usually the thing they are used to, is sold for somewhere between $150 to about $300. But essentially, this is the XP600. So, aside from this funnel, this is what you're paying $300 for. Have you seen it? In Nigerian currency, that is about 300k right now. Great. Now, the printer head has two components. That is, aside from the fact that there's two components, the funnel, this guy, this funnel right here, and this one. Now, this is just the funnel. This is the printer head. Right? Good. Now, this printer head now has two components. The mechanical side and the electronic side. Of course, once you see a green plate like this, that's your electronic side. Now, mechanical side in the fact that these inks that are passing through these vents right here will make their way into these holes. So you can see 6 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? You can see that already. Good. So your printer head will make its way, your fluid, your inks will make its way through these funnels and then eventually land on these holes. Right? And once they land in through these holes, you can see these electronic switches over here. 6 electronic switches will then control the way the printer head uses those inks that it receives here. Now, so the next question is, how does your printer head know which colors to use? Well, this device here, the reason it's so small and so expensive is because it is what you really define as a piezoelectric device. A piezoelectric device. A piezoelectric device is basically, the best way to see it is like a watering can. What it does is that it determines which of the holes of the watering can collects fuel, releases water at any given time. So you see 6 holes all through here, right? And each of those 6 holes determines when fluids will enter into the 6 holes. Each of these 6, so you can see 6 holes here, and each of these 6 holes make their way into this printer head compartment, right? Now, these electric connectors here are the ones that does the piezoelectric function. In a piezoelectric system, an electric field squeezes a membrane of maybe a silicone or something, and when you pass that electronic signal to crystals, it forces the crystals to jet out ink or to respond in a certain way, in most cases to squirt ink. So essentially, in a piezoelectric system, we use electric signals to squeeze ink out of a membrane. So basically that's what we're doing. Now, so if you look at this plate, right, it is resting on another component here, which is like this section over here. So this section over here is where you have what you call the diaphragm and what you call the I don't know the best way to put it across to you now, but the semiconductor device that makes piezoelectric functions happen. So now there is an error that most people say when they say that this plate is the printer head. No, this plate is just a covering on top of the printer head, and I'm going to peel up this place for you now so that you can see that this is just a tiny little sheet. It doesn't do any specific function other than to cover the printer head for you so that you can then jet out ink through this space. So in a minute I will peel up this section here for you so you can see. I've gotten a knife, right? Now don't try this with a new printer head. Don't forget, this was an old print head. Don't do experiments with new print heads. Once you try this, the printer head is gone. Alright, so, but I'm just doing this so that you can see it. Now, if you put your knife somewhere slightly under here, you can see this plate peel up, right? So you can see that. So I'm just going to take it all off, and then you can see. So you see that this is just the metal sheet, right? It's just the metal sheet that has the 6 lines out through which the inks come out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now it's on top of each and every one of these lines. It's on top of each and every one of these lines that I said there are about 100 or more tiny other little lines that are tinier than your sweaty pores, right? Each of these lines, just this line alone, has close to about 100 holes in it. It's so tiny that it's tinier than your sweaty pores. I think this is the miracle of the technology, really, and this is why Epson is the only one that does it, because it's extremely difficult to build. So each of these 6 lines right here is the vents through which inks come out. So there's nothing special with this plate. As a matter of fact, if I can get a metallic gum and some other substance, I can literally gum this thing back and then the printer head will work. As a matter of fact, the people who refurbish your printer heads, this is basically what they do. They just get a printer head that's already used, they wash it through and through, and then they get some new plates, and then they get the metallic glue, and then they put it back, and then you think it's a brand new printer head. But essentially, this is how they do it. So this is just a plate on top of it. However, that doesn't mean that when the machine is on, you can freely touch it. If you touch this surface when the machine is on, you're going to send electric signals to this plate, and you can easily damage this printer head. I've broken 2 or 3 printer heads that way, so I know. In case you want to find out, you might want to try it. Alright, now this is your printer head now. So you can see those holes that I was showing you here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Those holes eventually make their way out through these places, and they also have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Right, so essentially the piezoelectric system happens on this surface. So it's this surface that the electronic signals you send from here comes to, and then it determines which of the nozzles is printing per time. So if you're printing more of red, you're going to have more of these nozzles work. If you're printing black, you're going to have more of these nozzles work. If you're printing blue, you're going to have more of these nozzles work. But really what you're doing is that you're sending electric signals to this here to control the ink that is coming from this tank or this funnel, and then it's going to make its way out through here, and then this place is conditioning the flow of the ink such that it's coming in extremely tiny droplets. So now, to ask the question, why does your printer head block, or what you call, why does your printer head draw lines? Usually there are 2 reasons why your printer head draws lines. But those two reasons can be subdivided into other reasons. Reason number 1 is if you have an electric problem, right? If you have, or let's start from the beginning. So essentially you can see that this place is so tiny. You can see how tiny this is. I wish there was a way I can show you these nozzles and how tiny they really are, but they're seriously tiny, so tiny you can't even make it out. Can you see? Like I said, there are about 100 lines on top of here. So essentially you have 100, 100, 100, 100, same 100. It might even be more than 100, because like you're boring tiny different holes into this thing, and it's going to give you that kind of nozzle test that you're already used to. So you can see how many holes we're dealing with here. So now, if the case of the printer head is this, then that means if it is this tiny, it will be very easy to block. So essentially, one of the reasons why your printer head is drawing lines is because these vents are so tiny, they are easy to block. But guess what? That's also why the ink system that you're using is called eco solvent. A solvent is like in the class of acids, or what you can call things that dissolve things. When you say something should become solvent, you're saying that it should dissolve things. So essentially the ink you're using is also a solvent that is able to pass through these tiny holes and free up any tiny pores that may be blocked. So if your printer head is drawing lines, the thing you need is already made with the machine, which is called the ink. That's why you do manual pump, you do nozzle clean, and then you do some nozzle test to see that those tiny pores are fine. Those tiny lines you see of black, blue, 2 blues, 2 reds, and 1 yellow essentially are coming from here. That is the colors you can see here. So in this case now you have 2 blues, then 2 red, 1 yellow in between, and then you have 1 black at the last here. So as you do nozzle test and do manual pump, what you're really doing is that you're freeing up these tiny holes to be able to jet out more ink. So essentially, why does your printer head draw lines? Number one, it could be a supply issue. That is an ink supply issue. Maybe your ink is not supplying properly, and so therefore it is blocking this this vents here, and then it's not working. So if you see that your machine is drawing lines, just pause the machine and then do manual pump, or at times take a syringe and pull the ink from the printer head, and then the ink will flow through these holes and then it will come out through this place. Of course, if you are pulling from here, you know it's going to pull through these tiny vents up on here, and then up from here, and then up through here, and then up through here. So your ink will pull ink from here, but because this place is directly on top of this surface here, you're essentially pulling through this place, which is essentially from here. Now if this place is connected to this place, you are actually also pulling ink from here, and whatever the tubes are connected to this place. And so if these tubes connected to this place are coming from the tank at the back, then you are pulling from the tank. Only you are pulling from here. You understand where we're going? So once you do that, that force by which you do manual pump or pull or clean nozzle is freeing up these vents right here, and then you're making this place free enough to use your inks properly, right? Now, the other reason it may be drawing lines is electronic switches. Now you can see that you have 6 electronic lines here that controls the piezoelectric function out of this place. If any one of these electronic fields here have a problem, maybe your carriage board sends too much electronic signal to this place and you damage any one of these lines, that's why you have one entire row missing or empty, right? Or if you're having electric signal problem, any one of these tiny little electronic fields may not be sending signals, so you see that each of those, that section of the nozzles may be blocked up. And so basically that's what causes your printer head to draw lines. Why does your printer head draw lines? It could either be an electronic problem or it could be a supply problem, right? Once you have your printer head drawing lines, the first thing you should check is whether it has a supply problem, which is that this place are blocked and is not releasing ink properly. Once you have done pulling, manual pump, and all the other things you are supposed to do, and you still have those problems, then you have to go to an electronic problem. And if you have this kind of problem, it's pretty easy. You can change your tank, you can pull some things, you can free up the tubes and all of that. This is a whole lot easier to deal with than this one. If you have this kind of a problem, the chances that your printer head is going and you may need to buy another one. So I don't know if this has helped you. If it has helped you, I'll say once again, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. This is just to give you a general overview of why your printer head is drawing lines. If you have more detailed questions about this, you can send me a message with the WhatsApp line that you see there. If you want to support our channel, if this has done you some good, if you want to support our channel, you can also find a link to our seller group where you can do a small donation to us just to keep us running this free stuff for everybody. Until next time, see you and have a lovely day with your machine. Bye.